Hello, welcome to Grim Talks. Today I want to talk about an old school OG PSL. We're trying something new today out in the garage on the bench. That's simply to accommodate our topic, which is the PSL. And later we'll go out to the backyard and shoot a little. I don't even know what really could be the bottom line up front with this thing. It's awesome. It's basically like a long boy AK. And maybe that's where I'll start. My military time sort of spoiled the 5.56 cartridge and its most popular platforms, either like the M4 or the M16 style rifles. I do have one, being that it's so predominant, but it's just not fun or really unique to me to go shoot with that platform. And that's what got me into doing what everyone did like 4 years ago, and I started looking into 30 cal rifles, and particularly the AK variants. And my first purchase was an AK pistol from Palmetto State Armory, which I did end up grabbing just to show you guys because it's kind of cool. I did a RIT dye job and I cut down the guards and some other stuff. This thing rocks, but it's not really the topic today. It's just sort of the seed of the story and something else I thought was kind of cool. Anyways, after I bought that, as I guess chance would happen, my brother had this Safe Queen PSL, which is I guess it's on loan to me technically. And I remember this rifle from way back. It probably only had like 10 rounds through it when we shot it a whole long time ago. I've added to that a little bit now, but it was pretty much untouched. My brother, he's a little bit older than me, and I want to say he grabbed this like right as I joined the Army, or maybe it had been a couple years, so it was either like 2004 to like 2006 or something around there. And if you do already know what this is, I definitely give you permission to hate him because of what he paid for it back then. I know I do. In fact, if you hit the like button to hate him, so we have like an actual record, and I'll make sure he sees it, all of your hate. Anyways, he had this, and I had a need to shoot it and tinker around with it. It's the PSL, which is an acronym for, I don't know, some long words I can't pronounce that basically mean scoped rifle. And because that's from, if this was made back in the 70s when not everyone had some kind of optic that, like they do now. So that was enough to differentiate it from the other rifles in the armory. All the original parts are untouched and still here, so I can go back to the original configuration. So don't freak out about my crappy mods, but it does bring up, I guess, an interesting point. The history of these original PSLs and their, I guess the way they were imported is like, it's a entire book into itself that's got mystery, intrigue, some crime, and all kinds of other crazy shit that happened. I'll skip over it and just try to summarize, focusing on this one specifically. The original batches of rifles were imported in so many different types of ways that it kind of made the PSL a little bit polarizing. Some people ended up getting like just basically a piece of crap rifle that can't shoot, and other people got a pretty solid like battle rifle with a little bit of DMR styling. And this is the latter. It was imported as a Romak 3, and those are pretty well known for their quality. And there's a couple of ways you can tell like what you have, and the first and probably the most important one is check for all matching serial numbers. There's a bunch of them hiding in here, but they're stamped in, and you could check them all, and if they match, that's a good thing. The other way is you can tell, if I can find it, you can tell by where the stamp is from the manufacturer. This one has it up here. It says that FPK Dragunov, which it's not. But if you're stamped down here, you might be in trouble, or you either got one of the best ones or one of the more mixed ones. Lastly is actually the presence of the bayonet lug. You can see it here, and the ends are shaved off so that you can't actually fix a bayonet to this, but this is actually a good sign to have this neutered lug. And that's because it's basically saying that this was imported as a complete kit, and shaving the lug off was a requirement of importing it in a mostly built configuration. I'll leave it at that. You'll have to find some forums or some other stuff. That's how I learned all this. Sorry, you gotta do it on your own. The PSL is chambered in 7.62 by 54R. That's for rimmed, not for Russian. You can see the rim down here. It's basically the longer version of the 7.62 by 39 that the AK fires. Supposedly it's the longest serving military issued cartridge in the world, whatever you were supposed to glean from that fact. What it means for you is that this is essentially a 308 with a little bit of extra powder. And because it's heavy and going really fast, this will keep its accuracy out to like 500 or 600 meters. And accuracy here is in the context of head and shoulders, basically a bust-sized target. The idea being that the 39, the smaller cartridge for the AK, is an intermediate fighting cartridge to get out to 300 meters, and the 54R, being the DMR type rifle, is for extending that range of the fighting unit out to 600 meters. It's like the Soviet upside down version, mirroring our own fighting squads. We have 5.56 and M4s for our 300 meter fights, and our DMR, well, God, it used to be the M14, that's how old I am. Then it was the M110. Now, God, who knows? The point is that the DMR roll uses a larger round to reach out further, and Russia does the same thing. I swapped out the original stock and guards for the Rhineland Arms one. The new guard does require cutting the flanges off the gas tube. Here's what the flanges were. So I ended up buying a donor gas tube to keep this original one stock. And this does give it a more like Dragunov look to add to the confusing nature of those two rifles. People do call these baby Dragunovs. It doesn't help with the stamping. But a Dragunov is a totally different rifle, whereas this is just a big stretched out AK. But the new stocks gave me mounting points for bipods, which I wanted. I have thrown a Harris onto here. And it also stretched out the length of pull on the stock. The original one is extremely short, even for a little guy like me. I hope you can see that. Supposedly this is to accommodate heavy winter clothing, which does make sense. And you might even benefit from this shorter one if you're shooting from a plate carrier or something and adding bulk onto your shoulder. That short stock will let you get your eye right up on the scope here. But I guess I ended up losing this nice spring-loaded butt plate if I can actuate it. It doesn't look like it would help the recoil too much, honestly, but I do think it actually did. I think it really did help. And now I don't have that no more. The original scope was a 4-power POSP, non-illuminated, non-powered reticle, and I replaced it with the same type of thing, but in 6-power. Both of these are actually really clear, really durable scopes. Honestly, I just kind of wanted something a little bit cooler and more powerful, while still being totally true to the rifle. So I went with the larger one, but the original it's adequate. It's totally adequate. Both are mounted on a side rail. And with the original physical tube itself, this one was actually small enough that you could still see down the irons, which are on here. But this new one, it's too large to be able to look under here and see those irons reliably. And this is based on like an AKism. If you don't know them, the top cover is removed for field stripping, and it's a really flimsy piece of metal. And mounting a scope on top of this, that is just a horrible idea because you'll end up knocking it out of zero. Just firing it, let alone taking it apart. A lot of modern AK designs, like the AKP, they fix this with hinged covers and other things like that, which is, it's more than enough for a red dot type thing. You can see it hinged there. But for a 6-power scope on a DMR, it's just not going to be good enough to maintain your zero. And zeroing both of these while we're talking about it is a major pain in the ass, and it's like kind of half the fun of having a rifle that's not exactly, you know, just an AR. First and foremost, these are designed to be zeroed in meters, not yards, but real measurements, not made up foot, gallon, miles per hour, fucking nonsense words, meters. And it's not the end of the world to mix them up at 25 meters, but it just gets worse and worse the further you go out with this compounding, exponentially growing drift that you're getting. The other thing is that one of these adjustments, or both, I can't remember because the shit is so confusing that it still confuses me. But one of these adjustments is not point of impact, it's point of aim. And what that is like on a classic American style scope. Hold on, I'm doodling. The adjustments are typically point of impact, just like the irons on your M16. That's what it's based on. You aim at, or you put your crosshair directly on the target where you want to shoot. And when you fire, you see where the round impacts. We'll say, oh, it hit low and to the right. Now you want to shift that point of impact up using the knob marked up, and then we want to go left. So we're moving the knob that says left, and when we fire again, if we did it right, if we're lucky, the point of the impact of the bullet hits where we moved it to, up and left. We moved those on the knob exactly how they're labeled, up and left, moving where the bullet hit. And that's probably actually the best way to have adjustments done, because it's logically consistent. You know, maybe that's my bias, having shot the M16 so much. But with the AK platform, it's just so different. They use a point of aim adjustment, and I think it's on up and down, if I remember right. And if I had to guess, that's because the iron sight adjustments, instead of being done at the rear and the front sight post, like the M16, on the AK, both adjustments are all done from the front sight post. There is no other than elevation on the back rear sight post here. So you're actually moving the point of not the point of impact, but your point of aim. If you move this post to the left, your point of impact moves to the right. And that extends to their scope as well. So now when you do our same little thing here again, you aim at your target, you fire, and you hit here. So same thing, you're low and to the right. On an American scope, you want to move this up and left. On one of these freaky weird things, what you actually are shifting is your crosshair. You're moving the point of where you're aiming down to where the bullet hit. So in this case, you would want to go down, the exact opposite of what we just did, confusing as shit. And I want to say the left and right is still point at impact. There's something super weird about this. But in this case, we would go down and right, and it would actually not shift where our point of impact was, but it'll shift our crosshairs down here to where the impact was. How horrible is that? At least I think I'm like 98% sure I'm right. I know for a fact one of these adjustments is point of aim, not point of impact, and the other one, I don't know. Like I said, it is a freaking nightmare to adjust these things and sight them in. In fact, I almost expect, I do know, I know that it's this dumb shit that actually hurts people's enjoyment of these rifles, and them saying that, you know, these things can't shoot for crap. And also, while you're making these adjustments, you notice there's 2 rings here, and this top one is actually your left and right adjustment. So you have to unscrew these little dials, make your adjustment, and then tighten them back down. But you don't want to turn this larger knob here, you just want to turn this top piece here. And now imagine doing that in between your shot groups, and you make the move, and I say this because it's what happened to me. You make your adjustment and you fire, and you're like, oh shit, I went the wrong way, because this one's actually point of impact, it's the other one that's point of aim. Which way did I turn it last time, while you're unscrewing these little things and doubling back the way you came? But whoops, you screwed that up too, because you had to run, what does Stinga mean? It's Stinga left? I don't fucking know or care. It's horrible. It's painful. It's a pain in the ass, and it definitely adds to, you know, their supposed accuracy issues. I know it does. And even with all that, I still actually really like this thing, even though it's painful. Its recoil is painful. I tried to tame it down. There is a K&S gas piston in here on a donor bolt, but that thing's been a pain too. I can't get it to, it'll always fail, either ejecting or feeding. I don't remember, and it doesn't seem consistent. I've tried adjusting the actual thread depth down in here, and then you have the gas adjusting up here. Still doesn't work, and I'm hoping once I get a silencer, there'll still be enough gas to, it'll over pressurize it again. I can get it to fully cycle, because this thing, like all AKs, is majorly overgassed. And that's sort of like it's the part of the charm of a rifle like this. It's big and it's heavy and it's ugly and it's kind of like industrial in a way. When you fire it, it has a really heavy mechanical action that it kind of reflects that. And most things like the ergonomics of the trigger and your safety, if you're not familiar with your weird safety on the AK, it all just kind of feels like different enough to be fun and interesting to shoot. And when you fire a heavy bolt carrier and spring like rocketing back into your shoulder, it gives you a pretty like visceral oomph, and it keeps you engaged while you're firing on this platform. And I know, like, a nice smooth soft recoiling rifle is great and it's fun too, but it's also a little bit more fun when the rifle like beats you up and you know, reminds you what you're doing, instead of being like a sterilized, watered down type of feeling. And in that way, it's totally fun to shoot. I don't hunt or anything, but I definitely have heard that this round is plenty effective at it. I just like to shoot steel personally, and this thing's pretty good at that. God, this feels long. It feels long, so I will go shoot. I don't know if I'll make it second video or not, or try to make it all into one. But you guys will definitely know. Thank you for listening to me ramble. This is the PSL. I'll see you next time. All right. It is hot, miserable, and there's bugs everywhere. So this is the best I can do. I took the KNS out. It was failing to extract. Even though it's maxed on gas, it should act like the stock bolt in there, but it's not. So I'm gonna have to figure that out some other time. There's some wolf in here, 148 grain. It's okay. I'm only gonna shoot like 3 rounds because it is miserable out here right now. Sorry. Bug me, and maybe I'll do more. I'm done. I'm done. There's a 100-meter steel target. I don't remember the pattern name. It's the half-sized man torso thing. You're probably not going to be able to see it. It's way out there at the end of the road. Yeah, this was the PSL, which is awesome. I do love it. And that's the end of my video. Thank you guys for watching. I think I will do, I don't know. If nobody sends me a knife thing, maybe I'll do like the X95 or that little AK pistol or something cool next. Or shoot more of this if that's what you want. Thank you guys. Bye.